Are you gonna do your little jingle at the front?
And I've got a new jingle song coming, so I'm
Who
like
gets to do
excited
it?
about it.
Andrea? Or
Grant.
Grant? Yeah. Mm.
Welcome back, you guys. This is your host, Andrea, with From Mrs. to Ms. I'm trying something a little new here. This is exciting. I've got someone special here with me. I've got a new jingle. If you guys heard it, thank you, Grant Kanoki, for creating a little jingle
will it be
for
on this
me.
one?
Yeah, it's the first episode. I wanted to say that.
Grant. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be great. So you guys, if you're not watching on video, you can hear another voice here with me.
Yes.
We're doing this live. This is my wonderful friend, Jeanette Cota. Jeanette! Yay! I'm having her come on with me, you guys, not as a guest. She is here as my special guest co-host this week, and hopefully some more to come in the future. We're just going to shoot the shit. We're going to just talk about all the stuff that you and I get together and talk about.
Well, not all of it.
Not all of it, but we're going to try to give you some good stuff. But we do our little happy hours and we meet up all the time and we try to do these little conversations and we catch up on each other's lives.
Yes.
Quite often.
Because I feel like we don't like connect enough. And so you have to get together and you have to have those moments when you're not surrounded by a ton of people.
Absolutely.
Where you can just be honest. And I think that's one thing that I love about our relationship is that there's nothing that's off the table.
Yes. And it's grown that way.
You shock the shit out of me sometimes when you tell me stuff. I'm like, you what? Okay. All right.
And that's my favorite because it didn't start that way. No. Okay. So let's go back. Well, okay. First of all, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you and then we're going to jump into kind of how we met and we're going to go from there.
Well, where do I start?
Where do you start?
I just was telling her we need to do another episode and talking about how I got here to California because I had like this previous life. I feel like, you try to walk away from some things and they keep coming back in your life. But, I'm originally from Michigan. Our kids actually met. That's how we met.
Yeah.
So Grant and my daughter Ava met, and then I actually met your ex-husband first, and then you and I.
So I won.
Now her and I are like
he's out.
Yeah. I see him every once in a while. I'm like, hey, how you doing? No, but I moved out here for my daughter. We started with Dance Moms. That's what ended up getting us out here.
Yeah.
And then she ended up getting Tall Girl, and we've been out here for 7 years. Out here is in California.
Yeah.
We've started a clothing line together, Identified Clothing. We also have a nonprofit organization called the Devin Michael Foundation. That was from, unfortunately, I lost my 23-year-old son to fentanyl poisoning. And so my daughter, Ava, and I have kind of turned that around, I guess, and tried to do something positive for it. So we started the foundation. And I also love to cook. And I do videos on that. And I have my spice line coming out here probably within the next couple months.
Yeah.
So,
lots of fun stuff going on, so we can update you as each thing comes out. That's very exciting. So welcome to my show.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you. And I was telling Jeanette that I'm kind of like, I love that I have guests. I have all these different guests, therapists and sex experts and relationship coaches, but sometimes you just want good old-fashioned girl chat.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about our relationship is you and I can like not talk for like a week or 2 weeks. Really, we don't go that long.
I know.
But if we did.
And not unless we're traveling. Because I'm like, I'm back. She's like, I'm gone. Yeah. She's like, I'm back. And I'm like, I'm gone.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But when we get together, we're just like, okay, and go. And then we just kind of start with whatever's going on.
What's up? Yeah.
So like she said, we kind of got together through our kids, and then you were friends with my ex-husband, and he's now out. I'm in.
Out. Sorry, Sean.
And we started, we started our friendship kind of slowly, and we would hang out and stuff, and then it just kind of grew where we were starting to hang out more and more, trusting each other more and more. We had a lot more things in common. And then, because I'm the one who'll talk about sex with no inhibitions.
Yeah, she did. Well, I think the funny thing with her and I, because when she moved out to California, I wasn't single.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You were single.
I was single.
And so you were on the dating apps.
Yes.
And then when I became single, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing out here. So, just like every girlfriend, like when you go on a date, like, whatever, you kind of filter back, like what's going on. And and I feel like a lot of times in the beginning of our relationship, I don't think it got as deep as where we are now, because I feel like it was just about like, who are you dating and what is going on here and our frustrations with it and all of that. And so we were just like really kind of sharing that information. But I think that once we really started to get to know each other and things. Like even in something I'll always remember when Devin passed away and that day happened.
Yeah.
You were one of the first people here at the house.
Yeah.
Obviously, my other girlfriend Tracy and my sister were flights away.
Yeah.
So they were here immediately after. But you and Grant, and I don't really remember anyone else that was here, but
Yeah.
I remember that, and I think from that moment,
Yeah, that kind of
I think
started.
it kind of took a different turn in our relationship, and I think having a girlfriend that is non-judgmental, that understands what you're going through in the dating part of it, and the frustrations that you have with putting time and effort into a relationship and then it
Yes.
not working out, you just get to a point, especially the older we get.
Yeah.
You don't have that time to waste.
Yeah.
So I think definitely over the past, I would say 2 years, you and I have really
Yeah, we've
found
gotten a lot
found
closer.
a
For sure.
good bond. And I've
Yeah.
seen you grow just as
Yeah.
much. I've seen you grow.
We
I
talked about
remember
that.
I remember us talking about a podcast.
Yeah.
And then I remember you doing yours and
Yeah.
then all of it. So seeing you grow and do your thing is really cool too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I want to go back because it was interesting what you said about how like I started on the dating sites and you were.
Mhm.
And so in the beginning, and this might have been because we were kind of a new friendship. And so
Right.
I think it was a little tricky to navigate how to go about that because
Right.
for those of you that don't know, we are exactly the same age.
Mhm,
I mean,
yeah,
within
well,
months.
yeah,
Wait, am
a
I
little
older?
bit.
Are
No,
you
I
older?
am. You asked me that every time.
I keep forgetting.
You
And I
asked me that. I was like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah,
I bring that up, right?
every time I'm like, wait a second. But okay, so but within months,
Yes,
we're within
yeah.
a few months.
Yeah.
We are the same height, pretty much.
Mhm.
You're a little bit
5'10",
taller
yeah.
than me. I'm like 5'9". We are within the same radius. Like
Yeah. So
and-
that was definitely something that I feel that it was either a plus or a minus with
Yeah.
us because, well, I remember.
and I had been dating for a
you
while.
had been
right?
dating for a while. So anyone that was like been out there for a while, she was like, oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
I would go, well, just tell me about him. You
Yeah.
didn't even show me pictures.
I
and
didn't
you'd
even
start
have to.
describing him, and I'd go, oh yeah, I went out with him. Or well, most of them I hadn't gone out with. I just
Right.
had talked to them or some
Right, but you
story.
knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was good and bad because
Yeah.
it was like, well, let me tell you, it's not a good match
Right.
for you or whatever. Or it'd be like, okay, that's awkward.
That's awkward. And I have girl code. I'm like,
Yeah.
nope. You've
Not
been
gonna
with
do
him.
that.
I'm not
But
not even
you
going
could have had Tinder Swindler. I would have let you have Marshall.
No,
What?
that
No.
was the one that you and I were talking about, and I was
Mhm.
like telling you, and I think I just said his name, and you were like, no.
Yeah, you
but
said
I
he
remember
flew.
you being in that relationship,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize.
You said you were talking to a guy that lived part-time or he worked part-time in Texas and a part-time here. And
Yeah,
immediately
she
he came
knew.
to my mind. And then you said something about aviation. And I was like, oh, wait a second.
There's a whole Facebook page. Of
There's
this
a whole
guy.
Facebook page. This is also, if you go back in a few episodes, this is your cheap ass motherfucker episode. Because he was the cheap ass motherfucker.
Well,
So
didn't he tell you that the courting
period is
courting
over.
period- I use some of your quotes. I'm engaged now, and I tell Brad sometimes. I'm like, yeah, she was dating this guy, and there was like this whole Facebook page, and there was this, and he's like,
Yeah.
what? I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, there's some crazy shit out there, and I'm sure the guys get it.
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine. But
Yeah. He literally was dating.
the courting
The
period
last
is
I
over.
heard was like 19 women at one time. Like it was just total mayhem.
Oh, when I heard it, I was like, yeah, delete,
Delete.
block. I am done. I don't need
Yeah.
to waste my
The
time.
courting period was over. That's really a great episode. If you guys want to go back and listen to that one, yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah. So we've had some fun times and a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
About not only about dating, but just like random things that have happened, and I love your son, and we've seen his grow.
Yeah.
We just went to a concert, and it was funny. Brad was on his phone the next day, like I'm connecting him to someone. Everyone's like working to try to get Grant like that next step because it's so frustrating.
So on the verge, and he's so talented.
It's so frustrating to see these kids work so hard for something and not get that break yet, or not be where they should be. So just he's got a lot of supporters. Just know that.
And I love that because as the mom, you can always be like, my son is
The
so
best.
talented,
Yeah.
and he's the best out there, and I'm always like, but with Grant, he's talented. There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So I can,
and he's been an
believe
amazing
everything.
friend to my daughter.
Yes.
I appreciate that so much. So it's nice for her to have that. So
I know, and I love that. And you mentioned about Ava; she was on Tall Girl,
she's
and you
Tall
guys
Girl.
were on Dance Moms together, which I love. I used to watch it religiously, so I knew.
People
So
still do.
I was a little starstruck when I met you.
I don't think you ever said that. It's
No, I would never say it only on camera. I would say it to you only for everybody else to hear. But no, I remember
it's
thinking
crazy,
that
the
like,
fan
oh.
base.
And do you remember when we went shopping in the village and this girl behind the counter was like, "Oh my God, are you Jeanette Cota from Dance Moms?" And I was snickering. And you're so just like casual about it. You're like, "I am."
Yeah,
And she goes, "Oh my God, you're my favorite," or something like that.
yes.
I would have been like, "I am."
You know, that's what my son Devin used to say. He's like, there's a reason I'm not famous or I couldn't be a model or anything. I couldn't deal with the fame.
Yeah.
He's like, it would go right to my head.
That's how I feel. I'm
No.
like, "Yes, it is me. Would you like my
Yes.
autograph?"
No, you know, the funny thing
So
is
cool
that
about
there are times that Ava and I will go out and someone will walk up to me and they're like, God, you look so familiar or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, I've just
Yeah.
got an familiar face. And it's so funny. And they'll do the same thing to Ava. Not really anymore. Ava gets recognized everywhere. But now
Yeah.
now we were just recently in a Sephora and this group of girls they were like 13-year-olds and they were all in Sephora. There was like
Yeah.
10 to 15 of them. And they all come up and they're like, oh my gosh, are you Ava's mom? I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
I am. I'm Ava's mom. Oh, we watch you on Dance Moms, but we love Tall Girl. Can you let Ava know?
Oh,
I'm like,
I
yeah.
love it.
So
That's
it's
a
really
great
cool,
movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
that we can go places and get recognized together.
Yeah.
But we still teach dance together. We're
Yeah.
going to a convention, and so we still stay in the dance world, and that's where you see.
Oh yeah, where people are.
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh, there. I mean, we went to a convention recently, and she was taking pictures for like 2.5 hours.
Oh my
I had to pull her
gosh.
out. I was like, come on, but no, it's really cool.
And of course you guys stand out because you're tall too.
Yes,
And then
she's 6'2". Yeah.
6'2". Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like
You
when,
can't hide
when
that.
I go, "Oh, she's from that movie Tall Girl," I'm like, "She's the tall girl."
They're like, oh, what part? You're like, she's that
Tall
tall girl.
girl.
Yeah. Was she really that tall? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
That
it's
is
awesome.
so
I'm
awesome. I love it.
honestly I'm truly blessed in that respect just to have those moments with Ava.
Yeah.
And even my moments with Evan when he moved out here, I'm so grateful. I'm so incredibly grateful. I can't imagine that if I didn't take that chance, leaving Michigan and believing in my daughter and leaving a bad marriage.
Yeah.
And well, it wasn't a bad marriage. It was a bad divorce.
Yeah. Good,
Yeah.
Good point. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If I didn't take that chance, I wouldn't be here. I literally wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
And Ava and I talk about it all the time. Like, what if? And I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have any regrets with it.
Isn't that called like the butterfly effect or something like that? When things happen, if one thing had been
didn't
different,
happen. Yeah.
you'd be in a totally different space at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And of course we want to talk briefly just about Devin. I don't want to, get into
Well,
it.
you can
but
go back
yeah,
to what
there's an
episode?
I want
There's
to
an episode.
say, it's like episode 11 or 13 or something like
so we
that.
talk a lot about that.
Yeah. And Jeanette graciously came on the show and just talked all about, kind of what happened in that situation. And you love to talk about, fentanyl poisoning and get that word out there.
Yeah.
So, So
Yeah.
that was really
So he was an incredible kid. Like just you knew him.
yes,
He was just this. I don't even know what to call it. This
light.
just a light. Yeah. He just was this energy. And he was getting so close to Hunter, your other son.
Yeah.
And he told me before, he was like, I feel like Grant's like a little brother I never had, And I was like, yeah. And they were all watching, what was it, The Bachelor?
Yeah.
Bachelor.
Oh yeah.
And so they were really starting to get close, but he had struggled with, some type of addiction back in high school, but nothing more than what like normal high schoolers or like, whatever. Like he wasn't like just this one kid. It was, and he decided, he went through a rough period. We got him through it, completely sober and doing great and having trouble sleeping, got a pill off the street, but that he thought was Percocet and passed away of fentanyl poisoning. And it has, someone had said, and I know I don't want to take up the whole episode on this, but someone had said to me, they're like, how do you go on with your life? And I said, because I heard someone say this, I can't remember who it was, but it was a conversation I was having. And I said, I don't move on with the life that I had. That life is over.
Yeah.
I've started a new one.
Yeah.
And that's the only way, because I can't move on with the life I had because he was a part of it. Yeah. So you have to almost end that life, be appreciative for that life.
Yeah.
And start creating a new one.
Yeah.
One that he would be proud of.
Yeah. Absolutely. And he is.
And I really think he knows, obviously I'm engaged. I'm in a great relationship with a man that treats me incredibly well, loves my family. Ava's in a great space with her relationship, with our relationship. Like, you know, I just really feel that he would be happy, and I feel like he's got his little, what do they call him, the puppet, like I feel like he's just
He's
kind
like,
of
"I've done
taking me
well."
where I need to go. So
I
I
love
still
that.
feel he's with me, and he's a big force in my life. But always think, even through dating and all of that, I
Yeah.
thought, how would Devin, you
Yeah.
know,
Would he
how,
like
would
him?
he
What would
like
he
him? What
think?
would he think?
Yeah.
And if any man can sit and listen to me talk about my son all the time
Yeah.
and not know him, I'm like, because I talk about him all the time, but I
As you
always
should.
will. Yeah, I always will.
Yeah.
I think that's probably my biggest fear, is forgetting something. So
Yeah.
I don't ever want to do that.
Yeah. And it
So
probably maybe helps a little bit when you talk about it as if, I don't want to diminish it at all, but like as if he's off at college or something,
yeah,
you're just
yeah,
not getting to see him as often. I
right,
think it's not that it's ever easy, but maybe
yeah,
a teeny bit easier when they're older, because
hmm,
I think about that, if my kids were gone off to
yeah,
college, you're not
yeah,
seeing them or talking to them as
yeah,
much.
yeah,
But yeah, I just think it's
yeah.
so you've been
He's
wonderful about it. And yeah, and we have, moments and stuff,
yeah,
but so we don't want to bring it
yeah.
down.
Don't
Yeah,
want to bring it
but you can
down.
go back and listen to that
Yeah, go
episode
listen to that episode.
because
Yeah.
today we're talking about men. It's our favorite thing to talk about. We're gonna talk about
See,
sex,
I'm good.
baby.
I'm good talking about men now, because I'm in a
Yeah,
good relationship.
I
Before
brought
I'd
her
be
to
like,
the dark side.
don't talk to me about men, or I'm done. I'm off the apps.
Off
I'm
the
not doing it.
apps,
I don't know how
off
many
the
times
apps.
you and I have said
Gosh.
that.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
done.
So let's
Yeah.
go back. Okay, so we did kind of the dating app thing. Like, tell
Mhm.
me, what are your thoughts on the dating app? What do you even?
I mean, I met my fiance in a dating app.
Yes.
So I have to. I think that Tinder should pay for my wedding.
Tinder, do you hear that? Do you
Yeah.
hear that? Shout
Yeah.
out.
No, but I think if you use the dating apps correctly and
Mhm.
what they're actually for, I think it's great. I think that if you are obviously out there catfishing and just looking for, we were just talking. Was it last night we were talking, and someone was telling me that there is a site, yeah, for sugar daddies, like
Oh yeah,
sugardaddy.com
yeah.
or
I'm on
something.
it.
And I'm
No,
like,
just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
and
kidding.
I was like, what? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
there is.
yeah, there's
and
like
I can't remember. It's not called Sugar Daddy though.
it's called
It's called
something else.
something else. It's a really
Ava's
clever.
boyfriend was telling me about
Yeah,
it. And
it's
I
a
was
really
like, "Are you
clever
kidding me?"
little name. I'll have to look that up and I'll try to put it in the show notes if I can find it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that if you use the dating apps for the right thing, and you're
Yes.
not like, what do they call it? Like when you're dating and like actually in relationships with like 5 different people and stuff like
Yes.
that. If you take it for what it is, and I
Yeah.
think that's something that I did, is when I felt that there was like a chance in a relationship, I ended anyone else that I was talking to,
Mhm.
because I wanted to give that its chance to live.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people don't give that chance
Yes.
to people in relationships because they're so distracted in other ways.
Yeah.
Stop distracting yourself, and if you see something and you want to go for it and see. And if it doesn't work out, then you can go back to those things.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely something. And in this past relationship, another thing that I did completely different is when Brad and I started talking, we talked for 2 months, this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we never met.
Yeah.
And we knew so much about each other the first time we saw each other.
So wild. Because he
That-
was in a different state at the time, right?
No, he was
he?
here.
Oh, he was here
Yeah,
at the
he was
time?
here. I was in
Oh,
a different
you
state.
were,
I
you
was on
were.
a cruise with Tracy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of like right before we started taking off.
Yeah.
And then we just kept talking every day, every
Mhm.
night, every morning, and we did it for 2 months. And
Yeah.
I've always been the kind of person like, let's meet, let's see if I want to see for sure if you're this tall, if you
Yeah.
look like this, you like whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that with him.
Yeah.
And
Y'all did
we built.
FaceTime, or you just kind of did
We
sketch a little
did
bit?
once,
Mhm.
and I think I was driving in the car, and
Yeah.
he still talks about this. It's funny is he said something to me the other day, and I was like, I don't remember when we first started texting or whatever. He's like, hang on, and he searched in his phone and he pulled it up, and I was like, how did you find that so quick? He goes, I put in search for MIA, and I
And
was
you were
like,
like,
what?
what?
And he goes, yeah, because one of the first texts I actually texted him, I said, sorry, I've been MIA for a minute. And I'm like, I really did that. I really said that. But
Yeah.
I just was taking a break. I was stepping back,
Yeah.
and I was not really looking for anything. But yeah, once we just started talking, and he asked about my family, he asked about, he was just very, he just wanted to know a lot about me. So
Yeah.
I think that's that's definitely something I've done differently in this relationship
Mhm.
than I did in any other
Any other one.
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we met up, I felt like I knew. He'd be like, well, yeah, my kids this, or my family this, or my this, or my job. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Because I already knew, so that was really cool. So
Yeah.
I give dating apps a thumbs up.
Yeah.
I wasn't on all of them. There was
Yeah.
some that I would try, and I did not
Didn't
like them. Yeah. But I like the majority of them.
Yeah. So I want to go back to something you said about where you were like, you take yourself off when you're on the dating app and you kind of just, I'm just going to talk to this person for a little bit. So it's interesting because it can be a different perspective. When I hear you say that, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I really like that. But then if a guy does it and like we start chatting and he goes, I've removed myself from the dating app or I'm just talking to you, immediately my guard goes up and I'm like, oh, whoa, slow down.
Right.
You know, we start to think that there's like kind of a negative kind of to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying go off the dating apps.
Yeah.
I'm just saying maybe just don't go on them. You don't.
Yeah.
The your what is it? Your pool or whatever. We'll still add up the guys or whatever. But I would just say just don't go on it. Just don't open any new conversations, and any conversations you have.
Yeah.
On the side, I just really said, hey, to other people, even if they would reach out, I'd be like, hey, you know what? I'm dating a guy right now. I really want to give this a chance to live. I really feel really good with it. So I'm gonna back off for a minute. And you know what? The majority of the men would say, I respect that.
Good luck.
And good luck. And that's what I did. And because I saw something different and special, and I wanted different in my life because obviously what I had done in the past wasn't working. So, and I kept going for the same kind of guy and the same kind. And I think also when I talked to my therapist, thank God for our therapist, that I was also attracting that because that's what I was used to.
Yes.
And it was really good for me to have something different, a man that actually cared, like really, really cared and had such a big heart. And, it just was the way I was treated was just so different.
Nice.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think there's something to be said, and I've heard that from a lot of relationship coaches that they're like, kind of just change it up. What you think you may like or want, sometimes you don't even know until you see something else or you get another opportunity. But when it's not working with a certain criteria that you're looking for, try putting other things a little bit differently.
Yeah, just rearrange your things.
Yeah.
Like what's the top? What was your top? Put it down at the bottom for a minute.
Tall.
Yeah,
we both did. Tall.
Yeah, tall.
Now,
yeah.
Wait, are you willing? Do you date shorter?
No. The only time I ever dated someone shorter, he lied about his height, and then he showed up, and
were you like? Oh,
I mean, he was a nice guy, but I knew myself. Yeah. But I do remember there was one date I went out on, and I think I told you, I pulled up and I was like, oh dear, he does not look like his picture.
Yeah.
And I got out of the car and I had heels on, and he was, I don't know, 5'10", 5'11" or whatever. Yeah. And he goes, well, I know that you're not going to be able to wear heels on our dates.
What? And you're like, wah, wah.
I was like, is it over yet? Yeah.
See, and usually when the guy is shorter and he knows the woman is taller, he's usually really good with that. And they're very confident in themselves. And they're like,
confident,
we're the highest heel and I don't care. So it's surprising.
Yeah, that someone would. So I already knew that was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But even with Brad, like Brad's 6'1".
Yeah.
I'm taller than him when I wear heels.
Yeah.
And he's fine with it.
Yeah.
But he's 6'1" too. So,
Yeah, it's not too far off. But that's the thing. It's like every inch matters. We ready to go down that road? No, not yet. But every inch does matter when it comes to height.
Yeah.
Because you put on that little 2-inch heels, which is not very much these days.
No.
Even a wedge is a little bit more than a 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you are now either right there or a little bit above them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? Things happen for a reason. Yeah. And I think if you can kind of rearrange your priorities and what you look to for a man. Yeah. It was funny. I remember when I started dating Brad and things started getting more serious and all of that. I had written down, like, I remember my girlfriend who's a therapist. She's like, I want you to write down all your, like, what is a must in a relationship?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And I had done it a long time ago, and I put it away, and I was cleaning some stuff out, and I came across it, and I read it. I'd pull it out right now, but I have no idea where it's at. The move we're talking about. And he had every single one.
Really?
Yeah, every single one that was really important to me. And I was like, okay, all right. And it was that day. And actually, I went in my phone and wrote down, he doesn't even know this, so he's going to listen. But I went in my notes and I wrote down the date in my phone. And I said, I believe that I'm going to marry this man one day.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never told anyone that.
No, I didn't know this. Yeah, oh my goodness. So you kind of manifested it, really.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think just really being knowing what you want. And I don't think I'd been there before.
Yeah.
You know, I had told him and many people, I'm not the same person I was 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Especially after everything happened with Devin and you're trying to heal from that. And then also bring in relationships and all of that. It just was, I was too broken.
Yeah.
So where I'm at now is such a strong, confident place in my life that I was like, okay, I feel good with this. And I think once you heal that, you heal. I'm sure you hear this a lot.
Yeah.
Once you heal yourself and you're okay with bringing that relationship in, is when it's the right time.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's been so just nice to watch you guys kind of just growing as a couple too. 'Cause it's been what year?
almost 2 years.
Oh,
It'll be 2 years
oh
in
my
November.
gosh.
I know, right?
Wow, time goes by so fast. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So, okay, so you guys met. We're gonna dive
After 2 months.
into Brad. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you started dating and you were dating for quite a while. And then you are now in the phase, and we were going to talk about this because we started talking about it off camera, like about having somebody come into your space.
Right.
And making room for them and adjusting. And so we're like, wait, let's pause. Let's talk about this on air so that we can kind of let other people know, because I think it's always a big question of how do you let somebody in, especially when you are set in your ways for so long and you have your own things and you have your own space and your own time. And I really like my time now. And so it's really hard.
And I
to
told
let
you
somebody
that
in.
I was in that space,
Yeah.
you know, and I think I didn't realize this. I had gone and from the time I was like in a serious relationship at like 17 and whatever, I was in a relationship, got married, you know, in a relationship, get married. Like that's what you're supposed to do. And from moving out of my parents' home, I really never lived by myself.
Yeah.
And other than when I was in Europe, when I was 19, but I lived with roommates as well. I've never lived by myself, ever.
Wow.
And I remember when I ended my last relationship here in California. And I remember both of the kids coming to me and they were like, you know what, Mom, we want you to make a space for yourself, you know, your room. And I'm like, oh no, the room's just fine. And they were, well, no, when was the last time that you had a room? And I was like, I don't need it. They're like, come on, let's just do it. And we did it. And I created a space that was mine.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how important, and maybe that's where that growth kind of really started coming from.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how important that was.
Yeah.
But I also didn't realize how comfortable I would get to
Oh
it.
Yeah.
You know,
in a short period of time.
In a short period of time.
Yeah.
And even though I had Ava living here with myself, she's a very independent woman. And we were like the best of roommates. We just worked really well together. So when Ava moved out, first of all, that was an adjustment.
Yeah.
But it was a good adjustment because even though I miss her and whatever, I am so proud of her for taking this next step and understanding herself enough to know, you know, I want to be on my own, not because I want to be away from you, but because I need to do it for myself. Like that's a really, really beautiful thing to see with your kids growing up, like that they want to take that responsibility. It's a beautiful thing. And then when Brad and I started talking about him moving in, I was like, wait, I love you and everything, but that's my space.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, but I told him, and I probably was a bit more, I probably didn't have to say it as many times as I had to say it.
Yeah.
But I knew, I remember my therapist even telling me, she's like, Jeanette, this is going to be a transition for you.
Yeah.
Because you found a comfort space. That's your safe space. She's like, so for you to allow someone else into it, it's going to take some time.
Yep.
And I remember telling Brad, I was like, okay, so when you come in, just don't come in and like barrel through my house and tell me you're going to change everything. Like there's a lot of memories here. There's memories here with my son. There's, you know, I've created it. And he's like, I would never do that, you know? And so we did it at a very slow pace.
Yeah.
He still has been very respectful of my space, which I think has helped.
Yeah.
I also think the fact that, you know, we're engaged.
Yeah.
It's like a bigger commitment to me. Like he really has made an investment in our relationship, and that really has changed a lot of the way that I feel about it versus just like a boyfriend moving in, you know? So that's been really special. And just I think doing it at like whoever's moving into wherever, just being respectful of other people's space and understanding it's going to be an adjustment. And because you know, he came from an apartment, he's all ready to move into a big house. And I mean, I remember there was one time he's like, when I pulled into your garage, he's like, it felt so good. And it's those little things that I don't think about, you know, but he does.
So
you know,
different.
So I know those little things, and coming to a place that he calls home
Yeah.
means a lot to him, and that I can provide that for him. That makes me feel very good. But he also respected me, and I think that's the most important thing, because I know even with you going into relationships and whatever, that it's, it really
Scary.
it's scary. And I think
Yeah.
it's also scary because we open our homes and our hearts and
Yeah.
our place, and we want it to work.
Yeah.
But we've also been screwed over so many times that we're
Yeah.
like,
And then you feel trapped. Like that's,
yeah,
like that's my thing is like if you do it too soon and then they move in, now you're like in this place of like, oh my God, and all their stuff is here
right,
and they're here all the time. And then it
right,
doesn't work out. And
yeah,
now, or you're not feeling the vibe anymore.
right,
How do you get them out?
yeah. Well, I don't know.
Shoo,
Like,
shoo.
I don't really feel that way, because I think that also, and my therapist did tell me this. She's like, you guys need to have a conversation about what to expect when you move in. And that should be a book, like what to expect when
Yeah.
you're expecting,
What to
what to expect when they move in.
together.
Yeah. So I think, and we did have that conversation. I said, one of my exes used to lay around the house all the day and, pretend he was working and whatever. And that was frustrating because I work from my home,
Yeah.
a lot of times. And, we had the conversation of, are you going into work? Like, what's going to happen? What are we doing around the house? Like,
Mhm.
he's got a younger daughter, and how, and now we've, as I think, as long as you open the communication
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
I think everything's fine.
Yeah.
But,
You create a routine
yeah,
almost.
you
So it
create a
doesn't seem
routine.
so
Yeah.
just off the chart, like sporadic, where you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what
I
are
mean,
you
it's
doing here in the
literally,
next
he's
6?
been literally moving in for like 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's been a very slow process. It's almost at the point to where I'm like, just move, just shut it. You're
Just get
shutting
here
like,
now.
because it's funny, and he knows this, and he like whatever, but he'll move stuff in, and then I'll get everything organized
Yeah.
and cleaned, and then he comes in with a whole other pile, and I'm
Yeah,
like, no,
no
no more. And he's like, wait, no, this is going to storage, and I'm like, okay. So we've laughed about it.
Yeah. Has there been anything that he's moved in that you're just like, no, like, I don't know why I'm thinking of Friends episodes of like a Barca lounger.
Oh, I
So
told
now
him
you're
he
behind the
had a
chair.
drum set in his
Okay.
apartment. I was like, when we first started talking about it, I was like, the drum set is not coming. He's like, you go right next to your piano. I'm like, it is not going next to my piano. There's a difference between a drum set and a piano. I'm like,
For
so
sure.
we laugh about it. And he really didn't play it anymore anyways. But
Yeah.
so he's always like, oh, he'll always joke about the drum set.
Yeah.
But the drum set was the one thing, and like, it's
No.
not coming to the house.
Not
so
coming in.
so that's in storage.
Yeah.
We'll see. But he's, like I said, he's been really great with it.
Yeah.
And working, and like I said, I think it's just communication. But my therapist did say, have that conversation before, and we
Yeah.
have. And I
Yeah.
think that's another thing I'm really different in this relationship.
Yeah.
I wanted someone that was really good with communication.
Yeah.
And he is. So, and he's willing to talk about things and understand things and see other sides. So that's been, oh, sorry. It's like blown up. So yeah, so I think that's probably just having communication and talking about it,
Huge.
and being honest. Like, don't, and like, I've even said, like, this might be a little harsh, but I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it. Take it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think if you can just be honest, because
Yeah.
I knew myself, because I was like, why am I having, like, I was married for almost 15 years. Like, why am I having those feelings? But it's because I had created independence. I actually did something for myself.
Yes.
And
now somebody's invading it.
and now when he started moving stuff into the bedroom, and we got a new bed, and we made it something new, and we got new furniture, and so now that's our stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like it was my stuff that he's moving in.
I do think that's important,
Yeah.
because I think like I would feel like when somebody is starting to move in and their stuff's coming in, I feel like I would have anxiety over it, and I'd be like, what are you going to do with that? where are you putting that? Or when they start moving my stuff, I'm like, wait,
Right.
where's that going?
Yeah.
But when you go and start making purchases together of things that you want to put in the house together, or it's a fresh start.
It is a fresh start.
starting
It's
with new
exciting.
things.
It's like, you see something kind of create.
Yeah.
Like, it was cute the other day. He had plugged in these little lamps in the bedroom, and he had turned the light on when we went out, and we were out in the living room doing some stuff. And when we walked in, there was like this really warm light in the bedroom. Whenever he's like, see, it's like, it's becoming our place. And I'm like, no, I love it. It's got like its little ambiance, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's cool to create those things.
Yeah.
And whatever, but it takes time.
It does.
And it takes a lot of, you know, I mean,
Patience.
everything got moved up to my office as we're sitting in the cleanest spot in this room.
But
we
found our little corner.
We found our little corner, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably the most important thing, but it takes time. Like I said, it's been like a good 3 months of him moving in and just.
But that should be good. Like, do you think there's a time frame from when you start dating somebody, like that's too soon to move in together? I'm more of a like, let's wait and see how this pans out.
You've lived by yourself for a long time. Now, I at least had Ava here.
Yeah.
So I at least had that. And even though when I was here, she was sometimes gone and vice versa, whatever. So I think it's probably going to be a different transition for you because you have lived by yourself for so long. I don't think I don't really see a timeline. I think whenever it works out.
Yeah.
You know, some people are a little bit more independent. Some people might not want to get married and want to just date. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
I'm the one that, you know what, if we're in a committed relationship and let's do this together. Let's, you know, kind of.
I'm the dater. I think I recognize
she's gonna be my forever single friend.
I am. And I'm finding because I've started dating somebody now, you know, and it's only been 2 months. It feels like it's been like so much longer.
Well, I think and you've talked a lot about your feelings and like the challenges with the changes. And I went through some of those challenges too. I think mine were more about trust because I had been, you know, I used to tell my friends, if you want to find an asshole, let me know. I'll find him for you. But
they are spoke to us. They just come to us.
No more,
honey.
Yeah. So I think that I think you're going through some of the things that I went through, or these feelings, but on a much higher level.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I do have trust issues for sure.
Yeah, and you should. What you've gone through.
I had a really bad last relationship in it. So it's really just kind of seeped into the new one. And it's weird. It kind of hits you when you don't even know why. Or like you think you are. And I've been going through that a lot lately. Like I'm like, ooh, why do I feel this way about that? Or something that he said or he did. I'm like, that feels weird. But I think it's just that, you know, the wall's up, skeptical about everything. And I'm like, what do you mean you like me? And, you know, I'm just like, I don't understand. And so I think that's been really difficult, that transition. And even, you know, when he comes over and I'm like, you're in my seat. And it just infuriates me. And I'm like, do you think that the best seat in the house has just been open, like that I wasn't using it all this time?
Right. I remember you telling me this happened on one of our happy hour things. She was telling me this and I'm like crying across the table.
This thing is completely sunken in. Do you think it's not being used and you just sprawl out in it?
But unfortunately, and this is no offense to any man. I just don't think they think about it. They don't. They just sit down and they're like, okay, we're here or whatever. And it's funny because I had brought up that Brad would always sit in the seat that I sat at like in my indoor table.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, that's my seat, like whatever. But I'm like, I honestly, I really had to get into a space of my head going, and you know who it was that was in my head? It was Devin. Is it really that big of a deal?
Yeah. Oh, that's
is it really that big of a deal? I remember him and I used to get in arguments. Well, I don't say argument, but it used to drive me nuts when he left dishes in the sink. And my girlfriend Tracy and I talk about this all the time. And he would always just be like, Mom, does it really matter if the dishes are in the sink? And I'm like, yes, it does matter because they're dirty. And I said this to Brad the other day, and I said, when you put the dirty dish in the sink, how do you think it's going to get in the dishwasher?
Yeah, it's going to hop its way in there.
I'm like, just curious. Do you think like there's this little fairy coming around and taking your dishes and put them in, whatever? And he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, just rinse it and put it in. And I didn't make a big deal about it. I just said it one time. That's what my therapist tells me all the time. Say it one time.
Yeah.
Just say it one time.
And that's it.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like little things like that.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes those little things aren't really that big.
Yeah.
You know, it's like pick your battles. Yeah.
I'm trying to be better about that.
It's hard. And
it is the little things, and I can just feel it like just coming over me where I want to be like, okay, just stop, I just don't know.
I don't want to
give
I can do that.
a specific example, but I did that
Yes.
the other day. Something he was doing was just driving me nuts. And I was like, for the love of God, please stop. And I felt
You did that?
oh yeah. And I
Oh my
felt
God.
terrible after because it's just part of his nature what he does.
Right.
But for whatever reason, it was just driving me nuts. And
You have to domesticate them again.
yeah.
You do. I think that when guys live on their own,
Yeah.
they become there's like a bachelor life, and I don't mean bachelor as in dating all these women.
Yeah.
But there is a bachelor life.
Yeah.
They can leave their dishes out
And
if they want,
and it will eventually
and
find
they
its
can
way
walk
through the
around naked,
dishwasher.
and they don't care, and they can
Yeah.
leave a messy bed, and they can do that.
Yeah.
They can do that because that's their nature. That's kind of like, and
Yeah.
a lot of women aren't that way. Like you walk into a woman's house, a lot of times the dishes are out of the sink, that you just take care of those things. So you're taking two different people and you're shoving them into one thing, so it's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take someone and now I know the gentleman that you're dating, and I do think that he would be very understanding.
Yes, he's a very
Yes.
very understanding man. And I'm not trying to talk about him publicly too much, but I'll say a little, it's going well. And he's just more of a fast mover than I am. And it's, for him, he's worked on himself for a while now. And so he's like, I'm good. I've worked on myself.
Yep.
I know what I want. I
Yep.
prayed for what I wanted. I manifested it, and here you are. So
He's like, I know.
I'm all
I
in.
know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's all in.
But see, I don't believe that you were there when you met him. So even though I think that he was there when he met you,
Yeah.
and that's why he's so confident,
Yeah.
I think you're working on getting
Yeah,
there.
because I'm not there.
Yeah.
And that is,
That's your
something
guard.
yeah.
That's your guard.
And it's something that we don't always talk about is that different level of where people are at and how do you progress in that? Because I'm having to really be like, "Ooh, slow down on me and let me feel and let me experience
Give you
things
that chance.
organically."
Mhm.
And he's like, go, 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 go. I know when I'm going to marry you. I know when I'm going to do that, and I'm just like, whoo, just slow down.
Right.
And so while it's great that he's doing that stuff, it's hard to navigate it because I don't want to make him pull back.
Right.
I want to let him be him.
Because then you'll miss him.
Yeah. And I want him to be himself. And if who am I to tell you you're not feeling something for me if you are,
right.
But I'm just trying to find that little happy medium. So
You'll
the thought of like,
I know,
I'm like,
so many
it's got to go down the
this,
road before like a move-in situation would happen. Whereas he's like, let's move in. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. you know? So
I think it's just you letting your wall down. And when that wall comes down, it will.
Yeah. Just chipping away at it.
Yeah. And I think he seems like he's a patient man with that, to understand that. And that's important because even when I got into this relationship, obviously I had my insecurities from my past relationship, and he had his own insecurities. And I'm not going to say it's been easy all the way. You know that.
Yeah.
We have definitely gone over some big milestones. And I was actually talking to someone the other day, and I said, you know what, that is why we are at where we are at right now, because we have overcome those obstacles in our way that we were like, okay, we're gonna fight for this.
Yeah.
Like this is why, and it's pushed us closer and closer together because we have overcome those together, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
Is I didn't do it on my own, and he didn't do it on his own. We did it together.
Yeah.
And a lot of tears and anger and like whatever, but we got through it. We got through the storm. And again, I can't be a bigger person on therapy. And like whether it's a life coach or a therapist or whatever it is, just having that third person to talk to,
mediate it
and to even call you out on your shit. Like my therapist will call me out on my shit, and she'll say, listen, this is why you're feeling this way, and this is why, and I'm like, okay. And I leave always thinking about it for the rest of the day. Like, what can I do better? How can I be better in this relationship? Because I want this. Forever. I don't want to date. I don't want to, I just don't. It's not, I did it and done.
You don't miss it.
I don't miss it at all. At all. And I feel like I still date.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so much fun together. So, but yeah, I think.
So how is it like, okay, so he's been moved in here now for how long?
Well, he moved his last load in yesterday. I told him no more.
He's done.
He brought the last one, and he said, I have to go over to the apartment and grab one more load. And I said, for what? And he goes, for the storage unit.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Direct that.
okay,
Real quick.
all right, yeah.
Yeah.
So everything's here, and every corner of my room or my house is full. But I feel like I had Ava and her boyfriend over and some friends last night. We did dinner, and I feel like it's full of love as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I feel good with it, and so he's technically been finished moving in last night.
Oh,
So, but he's been staying here. His bed has been torn up for a week and a half, so he's been here. I don't think so he's here.
So how's the dynamic like of when you have somebody living with you all the time now? Are you guys, is it like a hang out and watch TV and it's like, or is it he's doing his own thing, you're doing your own thing?
Well, right now, honestly, we've been busy with his companies and doing, you know, dinners and like doing stuff like that. So, I mean, we're pretty active and social people. So we do go out, like tonight we're going to a concert, tomorrow night we're going to a concert and tasting for his vodka and all of that. So all of that stuff I think it's been kept us pretty busy.
Yeah.
But there are definitely those times that I'm like, hold up, we are eating at home for like every day this week. And I've started cooking more at home and saying no to some things, like whatever. And trying to have more things here at the house, because I really love those moments. I loved having the family over last night, and having Ava, and she was even like, oh, I forgot how pretty it is in the backyard, and I'm going to come over one day this week, and I want to hang out by the fire with you. And those are moments that I wouldn't have if we did it all the time anyways, but we do it now more because she's not here.
Yeah.
But I forgot what your question was. I'm just rambling.
Well, okay,
but it's been good. And we do go out a couple days a week.
Yeah.
And you know, and like I said, when like we're still dating, he still loves to take me out to new places. Yeah. And he loves to listen to live music. So do I. Yeah. We love to go out on his boat and see his friends and spend time with his daughter and you know, do all that stuff. So I mean, I feel like it's not like the life I had when I had kids at home.
Yeah.
It's different, you know, it's like almost like a second phase of your life where you can go out and you can have fun. You can take off and take you know, a vacation without, and we love traveling. Yeah. And like he said to me the other day, he's like, hey, you want to go to Vegas for the weekend? I'm like, we can't this weekend, but I love it. Let's maybe do Palm Springs instead for a night. And so we love to get away and do fun things like that, which is great. Cause that's what I want. I want to, you know, find someone to travel with and also to sit home and watch a movie. Yeah. Or, you know, fall asleep to a movie, you know, next to him. So those are all like things that if you would have asked me maybe 6 months ago, are those things you miss? I'd have been like, nah, I'm good. I like my alone time, which I do. And he respects that and he likes his alone time. But now I'm in a different phase now to where I like those things. And I like it when he's able to come home and and it's funny because we haven't gotten used to it. He'll be like, what time do you want me over your place? I'm like, it's our place. And he's like, oh, you're right. Hang on. Let me rephrase that. When do you want me to be home? I'm like, well, it's your home, so you can come home whenever you want. But dinner's at this time. So it's just like getting used. Yeah, it's getting used to that stuff. So
okay, so I'm gonna go down the route of my favorite subject, which I know will embarrass you. No, I'll just be general about sex, of course, but like, has that dynamic changed? Like, because I feel like when you're dating and you're, you know, you don't see each other as often, you're not together all the time. So then when you do see each other, you probably want to have sex, or you feel sometimes maybe obligated because you haven't seen each other. But when they're with you now all the time,
I can tell you've lived alone for a long time.
No, I just like sex by myself.
But you know.
Oh, me, no stinking man.
I think we had the joke. We have the joke that if we weren't going to find a man, we're going to start dating each other. I'm like, I'm done. We'll just travel the world.
I know. And it's so funny because I think people think that all of the time, like when two girls are good friends and they're close and they hang out, that they just assume that we're lesbians or that they're, I'm sure you guys have done something at some point. And I'm like, you know, we just, no, we don't sit there going, ooh, you look hot. We don't know. No. Doesn't even.
But that's always been kind of something
funny. Your boobs do look great all the time. I did say that the other night at the restaurant. I was like, your boobs look great all the time. So there we go. That's the extent of it. But going back to my question, like, do you feel less obligated to have sex all the time because you're with them all the time?
No, because I think that we spent a lot of time together
Yeah.
anyways. And even when I feel like when he stayed at his place and I stayed at my place,
Yeah.
it was only like a night or two. Like it wasn't, anything. So I
Yeah.
don't really see any difference in it.
Oh.
We obviously you always hear about married couples down the road and whatever. But
Yeah.
I also feel that I'm in a different space now.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're taking care of kids all the time and when I lived in Michigan, I was working in I'm running my own dance studio and I was modeling part time and I had, the kids to take care of and all of that. I feel
Yeah.
like it takes a piece out of you, like you're so worn out. And now this is kind of like my time.
Yeah.
It's now I've always concentrated all my energies on my children and other people and all of that, which I still do
Yeah.
to a certain point. But it's also my time.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you get into that and you have that, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I feel sexier now
Yeah.
than I did 10 years ago.
Isn't that
By
funny? A
far.
lot of people say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. I feel much more into my feminine, which
Mhm.
is something we've also talked about.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where you
Yeah.
are. And I've told the story a lot of times. So I've been the father and mother to pretty much both of my children. But mostly to my daughter. But I remember, like, my daughter tells me Happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's adorable. I love it. But even with when my son was here, I don't feel like I was as much in my masculine because he was living with us.
Yeah.
And I feel like
And he
he
played
was
that
he
masculine
did
role.
play that masculine role
Mhm.
in our lives for sure.
Mhm.
But when I lost him, I became.
Hold on.
You're
That's right.
good. You have some.
Oh, I don't know where that came from. It just got awful tea.
I'll take.
You got it? Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, you only got a few more minutes. Okay.
Yeah, there's no
Okay.
problem with us talking.
Okay, so go back. a
No,
little
but
bit.
when everything happened with Devin, I feel like I really had to step up. Like
Yeah.
I took care of his house. I mean, if something went wrong with the cars, I was
Yeah.
the one that took care of the cars. If something needed to be built or broken down outside, I did it. I
Yeah.
learned how to do it. I hung, and here, Ava and I built all the furniture. We hung every picture. We did everything. So I was very much in my masculine, also in my
Yeah.
feminine. But that was definitely something I had to learn to let go of
Yeah.
because when I started realizing what type of person I needed a masculine.
Yeah.
I
And
needed
you've always wanted that. That was on your checklist.
yes, and
Yeah.
so that was very important to me. And I remember it wasn't even that long ago, and this is kind of where I laughed at it. And probably a year ago, I probably would have gotten pissed at it,
Yeah.
whatever, because he called me out on it. But I had the dogs. We were staying over at his apartment, and I had the dogs, and I got up in the morning, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take the dogs for a walk. He's like, well, hang on. I'll come with you. I'm like, no, I can just do it by myself. He's like, I'm coming with you. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. So we go down and I'm walking. We have two dogs and I'm walking the dogs and one of them takes a shit. And, and, I'm holding the two dogs and I'm pulling the bag out and whatever. And he's like, well, go ahead and give me the bag. I'll pick up, and I'm like, no, I got it. So I go down and pick it up and he grabs my hand and he looks at me and he goes, would you let me pick up the dog shit? And I just looked at him and I was like, yes,
Yes.
I will. And he's like, all right. So then the next dog takes a shit. And I was like, would you pick up the dog shit? And he's like, gladly, I'll pick up the dog shit. And I said, it was like that moment that I realized, okay, Jeanette, he can't be masculine if I don't allow him.
That's so true.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And now we have this joke. Like he'll do something at the house and he's like, that was a masculine thing.
Yeah.
And you let me do it. I was
Yeah.
like, it was so nice to let you do it.
Yeah.
It's the little things. It's like taking out the garbage.
It's so true. And it's even like, we tend to want to be in our feminine and we're in our masculine. And then when he comes along, I automatically always go to my door. And so this guy that I'm dating now, I mean, he won't let me open the door.
Like, don't.
He's like, stop. Please just let me open the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
okay. I could have been in the car already.
We could have been on our way, but let's go. So it's really hard
very
to
hard.
kind of change yourself with that.
Mhm.
And I'm like that in the house, just with like everything I'm doing. I feel this need to be in control and it's starting to drive myself nuts. I'm recognizing
But understand that it's not so much about control.
Mm.
It's just that you're so used to having to do it.
Yeah.
It's like even when I had my dance studio, I did so many things on my own up front. And I got to a point to where I was like, I can't run all this by myself. And I had to give that. But I said, you know, like my girlfriend Amy, I had to bring her in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to teach you so much stuff. It's going to take me longer to teach you the stuff than I can just do it myself. It's the same analogy. Yeah. But when I got her trained, then that relieved something for me. And that is definitely something I've seen when, especially like, I'll find it when well, now we live together and that, but when we would go on vacation together or something like that, and we were together all the time, it would like break my wall down.
Yeah.
You know, it would like start chipping away, and I would let him do more and more. And then I found myself being happier and being more feminine and like laughing more and not being so guarded and whatever. So I found that my feminine side was really trying to come out.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to let go of.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where you and I have talked. I think that's kind of where you're at, because I remember it was really hard for me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long ago that he was like, let me pick up the dog shit.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, you have to let him pick up the dog shit.
And I've been trying to like step back a little bit, you know, simple things of just like making the bed and stuff. I mean, he wants to help me every time I make it, you know.
That's great.
And I'm a big proponent of making my bed, because they say if you do nothing else all day,
make your bed.
You did one thing.
Yeah.
So I always make the bed, you know, and he's just really great about doing that. The dishes, he'll just get up and start cleaning the dishes, you know.
And you tell me this stuff, and I'm like, Andrea, you do understand that everything that you're telling me that he does,
I know,
is exactly what you bitched about other men not doing.
Yeah. I know. And it's amazing. And he's just really great about, you know, with my workout, I got to get in 12,000 steps a day, which is like ridiculous. And he's great about being like, did you get your steps in? Let's go for a walk. And he loves to just do a walk with me. And it's like, it is chipping away at me in the way of like, okay, he's just letting me be me. He's remembering that I have things, a life here too. That, you know,
and he's being respectful.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just you letting go of that masculinity.
Just a
little bit. But it's I didn't want to either.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful feeling when you do, because I have noticed it. Like there have been times that I almost find myself a little giddy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I laughing so hard? Like whatever. And I'm like, it's because I feel safe in his presence. It's because I don't need to watch my back every 5 seconds. It's because I'm allowing someone to come in and take that space.
Yeah.
And
those little things are huge too. Just somebody that makes you feel safe and does those extra little things.
Right.
This guy will always puts me on the inside of the sidewalk, you know, or he sees anything coming. If we're walking on the strand at the beach, he's like immediately moves me on the inside, you know. Yeah. Little things like that. I think it's just, and it makes me feel feminine when he does it. I'm like, see nice over here. But I think it's also a little bit because we are tall, we're bigger girls, and that's always given me this like, this is what I imagine in my head. If I was just petite and dainty and tiny, I would be way more feminine and just be like, no, I don't want to pick up that shit. You do it for me, you know. But because we are kind of more dominating women, we're very in control of our lives, ourselves, you know, and we're not fearful of being in control. And so we just kind of automatically go into that role.
Yeah, so, I agree. I think that, and like with Brad and I, it hasn't been that way the whole time. Yeah. There's been times where I haven't felt safe with something that he's done. Yeah. And, you know, whatever. But there was something I recently told him when we were talking about something, and I said, I need you to be my hero. And he was like, I like that. Yeah. I like that. He's like, I want to be your hero. Yeah. You know, so I think that if you understand that, but it's taken a year to get there. To that point. You know, it was even, you know, a couple months ago, probably 4 months ago, about the dog shit, you know, and just me, realizing like I have to realize it. Yeah. Nobody can tell me. So I can tell you till you're blue in the face. Yeah. But I'm only 2 months in, so I've got you've got plenty of time. But you have a really smart friend that's been through all of it. So I'm just like all the advice. Yes. I know you have to like talk me off the ledge all the time. Yeah. I just get I'm like looking at her. I'm like she's telling me things, and I'm looking. I'm like, Andrea, do you hear what you're saying? She's like, I know. I know. Somebody just asked me that the other day. They're like, what are all of the things, the characteristics? What on your checklist does he not check off? And I'm like, he's tall, he's handsome, he's kind, he's generous, he's like supportive, he's spontaneous, we have great sex. I mean, there's so many. It's me. It's you. Yeah. It's just I'm independent, and I've been working on myself for the last 10 months to get to a place where I don't need a man and I can feel just very comfortable. I was the proverbial dater before. Right. And
You
I
know?
also think it's not that you don't need a man, but I think it's also, I think, well, in my situation, I've also had men like hold control over me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to give you this if you don't do this. I don't this,
Mm.
and sometimes I felt almost invaded. Like,
Yeah.
this is my thing. I created this. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
don't step in, because I was afraid of losing something, or losing something. I don't know really what I was afraid of,
Yeah.
but it was even like with him moving into the house. I was like, just don't come in and like, and just
redo
say like,
everything.
redo everything. This is my home.
Yeah.
I've created this with my kids,
Yeah.
and I have memories. And he was so respectful
I love
of that. And but I think that I think it's not about necessarily like, I got this, whatever. But it's
Yeah.
just like, I created it. I'm
Yeah.
proud of myself, and
Yes.
I don't want someone to come in and take the credit for
Yeah.
it, kind of thing. Like, because women don't get the credit that they need
No.
for everything,
Very
So
true.
I think that's probably
Mm. Well, I
one of
love
the
it that
things.
he's like here, and we'll see how this goes.
Mhm.
It's still early,
It's still
so
early.
we will definitely do
Yeah.
a follow-up
He's like,
episode.
we were joking the other day. He's
Wow.
like, well, if you get mad at me, it's not like I can go sleep in my apartment anymore. I'm like,
You're
no,
like,
you just got to go
"No."
to the couch.
Yeah, there's a room down the way, and it will
Right.
be talked about on the podcast. So just know,
Yeah.
those are my stories.
Yeah.
So I love that, but I'm really, really happy for you. You know
I'm
that, and
excited. I'm excited that we're
know.
finally doing it.
And
Yeah. I feel like we
yeah.
have so much more. I mean, I know we talked a lot about like dating and moving in, but
Yeah.
I also think that we have a lot more to talk about just in life.
Oh yeah,
Just
absolutely.
all the things that we've been through, all of the, I used to be able to
Yeah,
share.
I know. So I love that you're going to come on here more with me
Yay.
and
Yay.
just shoot the shit, because
Just shoot the shit.
that's
Yeah.
the best stuff, and just
Mhm.
kind of, I like to find out stuff that's going on with like other people, and then I like to use those stories and
Right.
relate them
Right.
to
Yeah.
what we're doing and see how we relate to it, because so many people see things differently, and I think that's the really cool thing about these podcasts and conversations. And
I think
stuff.
that's probably the coolest thing about the podcast, because you can find people in your age demographic, and maybe
Yeah.
also, or that have different life experiences or something like
Mhm.
that. And like with us being middle-aged,
Yeah,
I think it's really cool that other women or other men can listen to
yeah,
this and be like, oh, wow, I never really thought about that. Versus listening to a 21-year-old talk about
yeah,
a relationship, which there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah. But what a difference!
But what a difference. Like, I'm not the same person I was when I was 21. And it's so funny. My daughter, Ava, and I talk about it all the time. I'm like, it's so crazy to see you at 22. I
Yes,
cannot wait to see where you are at 32.
right?
Like, just the growth I see
Oh
in
yeah,
her. And I said, and then when you get to a certain age and you look back
yeah.
and you're like, gosh, that was
That
really
was
important.
me.
That
I
was
know.
really important to me back then. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I said, I feel like like you were talking about having the time in the bedroom and,
Yeah.
sex and all that. I feel like you're just in a different space.
Yeah.
It's like a different part of your life. Like, I've never felt better about myself.
Yeah.
Um, and, and I have a piece of me that's missing inside, with my
Yeah.
son. So if I feel this good with doing that,
Yeah. Wow. Sky's the
yeah,
limit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
Well, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you liked our little
I
shit
know,
chat
our
today.
girl chat, girl chat.
Yeah, we love to do that. And so I'll have all of Jeanette's info so you guys can find her and follow her and check out her spices and her cooking
Cooking.
episodes and her identifying.
Well, you're gonna have
and
to
all
come
that
on a
good
cooking
stuff.
thing with me.
I would
We'll
love to.
do that.
I'm not like really good at cooking stuff, but if I have all the ingredients, that's my
Uh-huh.
problem. I never have all the ingredients. And
Oh, we'll
I try
have to definitely
half-ass
do it. Yeah.
half-ass it, and
We'll
so
do it.
then it never comes out good. So I would love that.
Okay, yeah.
But thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch up with you next week. You can find me on any major streaming platform. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at from.mrs.2.ms. You can email me with any questions, concerns, suggestions, comments, or if you just want to say hi, at hello at info@FromMrs.to Ms.net. So we will see you guys next week. Have a great one. Bye.